I agree completely that the real Australian spirit, which by the way is really just a spirit of tolerance, fairness and decency, is that which is displayed by all the AMBOs, firefighters, coppers, volunteers, SES, etc. But you say that those Aussies concerned about bringing too many immigrants are ignorant and afraid, that they have no basis for their concerns, which are that too many to make it viable, newcomers are seemingly ungrateful for all this nation has to offer, and they seem to only take and put little back. This is evidenced by the fact that many ethnic cultures stick together in insular communities. They don't marry outside of the ethnic clan, and they don't do favours for outsiders such as employment. I know this firsthand, as I grew up in the Fairfield, Liverpool, Cabramatta area. You must have never taken a real look around, mate. How many non-Anglos do you see doing the above-mentioned occupations? None. Maybe one or two Southern Europeans every now and then. How can this be, considering that according to census stats, the current Anglo demographic is less than half the nation? You yourself said that the measure of a true Aussie is determined by how much they are willing to put back in. I'd say that most of those who have come from non-English speaking countries have a culture of take and not of give. They seem to care more about their true homeland than this great liberal society, even though the illiberalism and abuse of the poor and racial strife all drove them here in the first place. I wish it wasn't like this, and it will do nothing for non-Anglos to ignore or deny it. If Germans never confronted Nazism after World War II, how would they have transformed into the wonderful, liberal and tolerant nation they are today? Asians, Muslims, Greeks, etc. all have to confront this. Tell their dad where to go if he demands that they marry within the race. Remind the cousins of how this new country is the one we should barrack for at the soccer or tennis, not Italy or Croatia or Greece. Not to set up a local soccer team that excludes all except your own race, such as what happened in the NFL Soccer League before the new A-League. So, I agree wholeheartedly with your sentiments about what a true Australian should be. They shouldn't be bound to or patriotic about the Anglo skin they wear and genes they carry. They should be a constitutional patriot, like those brave men and women who fought and died for freedom and equality in 2 world wars. They weren't fighting for their Irish or Scottish heritage, but for a land, a culture, a system where all can have a fair go, and where you can throw an egg at the Prime Minister without going missing the next day, only to end up in some Asian organ market. A true Aussie is one and the same as a true American, a Swede, Dutchman, German, Briton, Frenchman, Irishman, Dane, Kiwi, etc. A true Aussie is someone who has transgressed the ethnic chain, come out of his skin, who has no problems with marrying or changing religion, or accepting large numbers of immigrants who are in need. A true Aussie is a true liberal and ethical being, empathetic, considerate, fair, strong. But at the same time, a true Aussie will reconcile the illiberal, the selfish, the greedy, and the true Aussie will try to do something about it. Although, all too often, the true Aussie's extreme tolerance cripples him or her, and instead of acting, they may remain unsure of what to do, in limbo. This is partly because there is no official discourse on the issue of what a true Aussie is, their constitutional patriotism, their sheer ethical culture of liberalism. So, next time anyone out there makes a sweeping generalisation about anyone who expresses concern over some newcomers to our shores, and the numbers we are receiving, ask yourself this. Would a people who have no problem intermarrying, changing religion, accepting that half their nation's demographic has completely altered in only 50 years without violence, bloodshed or even protest, be likely to expressing this concern for no reason at all? If there is ethnic strife, such as in Cronulla 2005, ask yourself this. Would the group who has a liberal culture, who have accepted half their nation's demographic changing in 50 years without violence or protest, be more or less likely to be the antagonist, or the group of people, in that case the Muslim community, who have the lowest rates of marrying outside their ethnicity, publicly have an almost impossible time changing religion, and who think it acceptable to allow their leaders, such as Sheikh Halawi, Kaiser Trad, Sheikh Omran, Sheikh Faz, get away with saying the most racist things about Anglos in Australia, saying the most misogynistic things about women by blaming rape gang victims and not the Muslim youth who committed the act, saying these things as though they were no big deal, even calling other Aussies racist for even talking about it. What do you think? Who would be more likely to be, in this scenario, the bigots, the antagonists, the illiberals? We saw the same thing with the Indian cricket team and Andrew Symonds monkey debacle. When Australia was playing cricket in India, against India, the racism against Symonds, calling him a monkey, was a crowd favourite. The entire crowd were chanting racist slogans about Symonds and Aussies in general. Even some members of the Indian team called Symonds a monkey. The same Indian player who called Symonds a monkey in India did the same when the Indian team came to play in Australia. All this was either ignored by Indians and Aussie leftists. Somehow, though, the powers of leftist nihilism and self-loathing managed to let the Indian nation off the hook, and not one single Indian official, public person, or even a common person saw that this was racism and that it was wrong. Instead, they saw the whole affair as a war between India and Anglo-ness. This is a good example of the kind of ethnic madness and utterly filthy racism that can and does exist all too often in a lot of ethnic communities we have now living in Australia. So, you are correct about what a true Aussie is, mate, but you need to have a hard and close think about what I've said. Look carefully next time you see a case of ethnic racism, such as at the tennis with Serbs and Croats, or at the soccer. Think about what it means if entire communities where different ethnic communities live are able to be safely bet on that they will vote this way or that way in a government election. Are liberal people really able to be stacked in that way? Remember your own words when judging who's a true Aussie and who's not. Are they prepared to put back in?
See that one? Oh.